Mm-hmm. Okay. We've just gotten feedback that the Secretary of Defense will be live streaming in a few minutes now.
Hello, Homestead Network. It is with great pleasure that I present to you Mr. Secretary of Defense, Jason Rear from Big Bear Homestead.
Hello, and good evening, YouTube creators, homesteaders, and fellow Americans. I come to you tonight with a heavy-burdened heart. President Danny from Deep South Homestead, along with Speaker of the House Brad from Big Family Homestead, and myself, have been in communications over the last week about a very real threat facing our nation. After careful consideration, we have decided on a course of action, and I am here to lay it before you tonight. The threat facing this great nation is the booming monoculture ideology driven by corporations such as San Monto, Perdison, Smithfield, and others. The thought that we could isolate a species and grow it alone by itself on a massive scale is biologically impossible. Or at least it was. Until these corporations decided to take into their own hands and play the role of God. All in the name of convenience and efficiency, they went to work using groundbreaking technology, antibiotics, and steroids to produce the monoculture monster that has been roaring ever since the 50s. Now let me be clear. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when people were connected to their food. They grew their own food or they perished. Children knew where eggs came from and where milk came from, for it was their life. There were no tomatoes in December or broccoli in the middle of summer. People ate by the seasons because there was no other choice. And this was a good thing. Mother Nature provided us different crops at different times of the year because that's what our bodies needed. Think about it. If you have a garden, what grows in the summer? Your tomatoes, your lettuce, your peppers. A lot of your lighter crops. That's because the human body needs food that is easy to break down during this time of year. It doesn't have to be very high in calories. But if you begin to look at your winter and fall crops, what do you see? This is the time when your pumpkins and your potatoes and your rutabagas grow. This cold season is when your body needs just a little bit more calories. Funny. It's almost like it was designed that way. But unfortunately, it is a different world now. Now we live in a world of insecticides, herbicides, and genetically modified organisms. Plants that never have existed before are now patented. A world where we put Roundup genes on a corn. A plant that so we can spray the entire field. And that's not even the beginning. The meat industry has become so corrupt that it sickens me. Where there once was green pastures and fields of free-ranging cows, pigs, and chickens, there is now these manufactured plants where these animals are nothing more than a number, where they spend their day living in their own filth, their bodies pushed to the max by the strain put on them to produce. These CAFOs, or concentrated animal feeding operations, what produce the meat that you eat every day. But yet, we aren't told that. No. What do we see? We're shown a nice picture of a cartoon of a happy cow or a happy chicken out on some grass. That's nothing, my fellow Americans, but false advertising. We're led to believe that these animals are happy. They live lives. But it's just a lie. In truth, these animals are raised in inhumane ways. As I said before, they spend their days living in their own filth and swimming with infection. But it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. Now that we have the magical antibiotics and steroids to help them out, we'll just give them a shot of some 10-syllable chemical that neither you nor I can pronounce. And it'll be fine. We'll be okay. That way, if they do make it to the butcher, we can ship them off to China to be processed, because we all know China has such high standards when it comes to food safety. Anything that these large companies can do to preserve that bottom line, and we let them do it. And what does that say about our own humanity? What type of example does that give our children and grandchildren? Well, I think the better question is, how did we get here? It was in the late 1940s, when this nation had just been through the Great Depression and 2 world wars. Needless to say, food was not in very high supply. And that is when the context of monoculture began. How can we grow the largest amount of food with the least amount of effort? The Department of Agriculture told our farmers, go big or go home. And so began the development of agricultural chemicals such as Roundup, growth hormones, and steroids for animals. All the way up until 1982, when the first plant cell was genetically modified. It was at this point when we began to lose ourselves. It was at that moment that you could patent a life. Now I know you guys are all listening and thinking, but Mr. Secretary, I have nothing to do with this. I don't work for these companies. But what have we done but support them with our dollars for far too long? And so, is it with that mindset that the president, the speaker, and myself have come to this decision? And this was not an easy decision for us to come by. Because this was a problem that there was no wall that was going to fix. We are declaring war on this monoculture mentality. We are standing our ground. We're saying no more. No more sickness in my house due to some bad produce or some bad meat. No more children dying because a piece of broccoli had E. coli. No more grandchildren dying because they ate a burger from a fast food restaurant and got salmonella. No more. No more of my money supporting this vicious cycle. As for me and my house, we will grow our own. Now, for those of you that feel that the US duh and the FD are doing what they're supposed to be doing, I ask you, don't send me an email. Because, to be honest, I have no idea which server is safe anymore. Now, we know that everybody is not in the position to just cut cold turkey and stop going to the grocery store. But what we can do as of right now is fight for the legislation that this country needs. It should be against the law for these corporations to do what they do to animals. It should be against the law that these corporations are able to patent life. It should be against the law that these corporations are able to sue a farmer due to air drift or an animal dropping one of their seeds on his land. You should be allowed to do things such as harvest rainwater and have renewable energy like solar and wind. You should be able to raise your own food. You should be able to live whatever life you and yours wants to live. And you should be able to do this without fear of punishment. This is our mission. This is our time. This is our goal. Now, before I open this up for questions, let me say this. This war it's not going to be over in a minute. This is going to be a long, hard war. We did not get here overnight. We have given these corporations too much authority. And we, the people, have to take that authority back. But we can't win this war by having our children and grandchildren and ourselves die from sick meat or sick vegetables. How we win this war is by every time a Purdyson or Schmidtfield factory closes. We win this when a farmer wins a lawsuit. We win when our babies don't have to eat any more processed food. We win when by supporting our local roadside farmer, so that no homesteader has to lose his or her land due to unjust laws for the bottom line. Now, I do have some time for some questions. Yes, ma'am. What is your question?
Mr. Secretary, what is your plan to combat these corporations?
My plan to combat these corporations? My plan is this. Thank you for your question, madam. My plan is this. When they toss antibiotics at us, we toss them pasture-raised meat. When they toss at us a genetically modified organism, we toss to them an heirloom seed that we can trace back to our forefathers. When they throw steroids at us, when they throw Roundup at us, we throw manure and organic compost. Thank you for your question. Yes, ma'am. You in the blue dress.
It's not much food that goes in the ground.
There's not that much food that grows in the ground.
Is not most food grown.
It's not most food grown in the ground.
Not most. There is. Yes, most food is grown in the ground. I don't understand your question. Yes. Yes, most food is grown in the ground. But we have to take care of that soil. We cannot survive by monocultures spreading nasty chemicals onto our grounds and polluting our topsoil. We have to top dress our current topsoil with compost, organic matter, worm castings. On an average, this nation loses 8 inches to 2 feet of topsoil every year. We have to give that back. Because not only is this way of life good for our grandchildren and our children and ourselves, but it's great for the environment. And not only is this great for the environment, it's great for our economy, which is good for America. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You in the black dress.
How do we know it is GMO?
How do you know if it's GMO? That's an excellent question. And that's another battleground that we have to stand. We have to draw our line in the sand. And we have to say, you cannot put food in our stores if it's genetically modified without it being labeled. We have the right to know what is in our food. We have the right to know how that food was grown. We have the right to know if it was Roundup ready. So to answer your question, my darling, right now, we don't know. And that is dangerous. And that is why President, the Speaker of the House, and myself stand united to declare war on this way of thinking. It is now time for us to stand. It is now time for our voices to be heard. It is now time for us to stand up for future generations so they can be healthy, so they don't have to lose battles to diseases such as cancer. We are what we eat. We were designed by the Almighty. And the Almighty placed everything on this planet that we needed to succeed. And we have gotten away from that. No different than at the Tower of Babel, when the human race thought they knew more than God. We must humble ourselves. We must say the dollar is not as important as our children, as our health, as our grandchildren, as our wives, our daughters. Thank you for your question. Yes, my dear.
Isn't organic a false label?
Is organic a false label? Unfortunately, in today's standards, yes it is. They have now jumped on the bandwagon of organic produce, and they have made it to where organic farmers can still hold the label of being organic if they only use this much pesticide, or if they only use this much herbicide. And I say to you, America, that is hogwash. We are tired of being lied to. We are tired of the false prophets of food. We must stand together and say no more. No more systemic pesticides in my strawberries. No more Roundup in my corn. If you're not putting compost on that ground, you are wrong. No more 10, 10, 10. Can I get an amen? Thank you. Yes, my dear.
Well, is all natural all natural?
Is all natural all natural? Not in today's world. The world that my grandfather grew up in, all natural was all natural. But now, they use the term all natural to describe some very disgusting things that I will not mention on this press conference here today. All natural is not what it used to be. When you genetically modify an organism, it is no longer natural. When you introduce chemicals into a seed, that's not the way my Lord wanted it to be. It is not natural. Thank you for your question. I have a time for just a couple more questions. Yes.
Are pesticides safe if used correctly?
Or pesticides safe or used correctly? Okay, that's almost like saying, is it safe to drop a car on my head as long as I do it correctly? A pesticide is not safe. It is a poison. Its whole purpose is to kill. We don't know exactly what all of these pesticides can do to the human body. There are generations out there that we have lost due to DDT. So I think they would answer your question a whole lot differently than some other people would. They would answer your question and they would say, no, it's not safe. Used correctly or not, it's not safe. I still got cancer. And that is unacceptable. Yes, ma'am, your question.
Well, how can you defend our food systems?
How can we defend the food systems? How will we defend our food systems? We will support the local farmer to the end. If that means we have to call in battalions of Marines to stand guard on their farm, that's what we will do. We will load up Hueys with compost and we will scatter it across this land. We will do whatever it takes. We will put judges in seats that will throw out these ridiculous lawsuits against the farmer. We will support buying local. Our economy will boom if we bring back the local butcher and baker. If we bring back the local vegetable stands. If we bring back the local lemonade stand. And we will pass laws that will protect these people, these homesteaders. We will get rid of these crazy laws about it's illegal to sell raw milk across the state line. It's illegal to transport some carrots from here to South Carolina. We will get rid of these bogus and ridiculous lawsuits because a farmer in Iowa chose not to farm Roundup Ready corn, and a truck goes by his farm, and a seed falls off that truck and finds its way into his field, and that genetically modified corn then grows. That lawsuit will never make it to court. That's what we will do to protect our food supply.
How do you defend the right to homestead?
How will I defend the right to homestead? Homesteading was how this nation was built. Homesteading is what made this nation great. Homesteading is what made this nation the melting pot that it is today. If it wasn't for the homesteader, there would be no Hollywood, California. If it wasn't for the homesteader, there wouldn't be no Las Vegas, Nevada. If it wasn't for these courageous families that went out that way to expand this great nation, this nation wouldn't exist. So how do we protect those same type of families today in this nation, in this society? We protect them by going after the monoculture. We protect them by shutting down the companies that make genetically modified organisms. We shut down the Perdysons. We shut down these farm factories. We bring back polyculture. We bring back the family farm. We support through tax breaks and initiatives. We pass farmer-friendly laws. Thank you. I have time for about 3 more questions. Yes.
Will you protect the cow's right to flagellate?
I cannot believe that this question even came up. It is a bad day in society when a cow cannot fart without being penalized. It is a bad day. What does it say about this nation when a cow cannot be out in the pasture and just let it go? What does it say about our society when they say Daisy, the home milk cow, farts have caused the hole in the ozone? It's just lies. They're lies about the family farm. It's lies because people don't want to give up their cars. People don't want to give up their spray aerosol cans. When that is the true demon to the hole in the ozone. Underneath the presidency of Mr. Danny King from down Deep South Homestead, cows can fart free will. They can lift their flagellants to the sky under the flag of freedom. Every person, thing on this earth should have the right to fart. There should be no penalty for farting. Yes, sometimes it smells bad. Sometimes people get a laugh because it sounds funny. There are games made for farting. That should be a freedom that we should never lose, the right to fart. Thank you. These are troubled times that we live in, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Americans. And these are sad times. These are times that we must unite for freedom. These are times when we must stand together, brother and sister homesteader, for freedom. The same freedoms generations before us came to this nation for. It is time for us to bring back the milkman, the butcher, the baker, the mom and pop grocery store. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your support. God bless America. God bless the Homestead Network. Thank you.
Well, that was quite the event of Mr. Secretary Rear said how we were going to declare war on these corporations and how he's going to defend our rights to farm. He spoke on other subjects such as defending cows' rights to fart and defending the farmer that sells the corn or sells broccoli, and defending the right of the milkman that comes by your house and sells milk for $1, such as the right to farm and make a small garden in your backyard. And the right to harvest rain. These are important issues that we face today. Thank you.
Good evening, Squash. How are you tonight?
Yo, I'm doing great, yo.
That's good to hear. So I have a quick question for you. You and the Secretary of Defense have been friends for a long time. What's your take on him declaring war?
Yo, you're absolutely right, yo. Me and the old Sec Defense, yo, we go way back. You know, I know that cat from back in the day when we spent time together in the Corps, yo. And I have never seen that cat that fired up as he was tonight. But everything he speaks is true. This is a dangerous time that we live in, yo. Danger. It's bad. Yo, people in my hood are starving. Yo, there are food deserts out there, yo. People can't get a tomato for less than what they can buy a candy bar for. They're paying more for vegetables than they're paying for trash processed food. You know, the president, the Speaker of the House, and my boy, yo, they're right. It's time. The gloves need to come off now. It's time, yo. It's time to open up a can and go after this monoculture society. Yo, and Squash is doing everything he can to help out, yo. We have kicked off a series with the Big Bear Homestead happenings, where we are trying to educate our future, our children, about where an egg comes from. We are trying to educate our children and grandchildren, yo, how broccoli gets in the store, yo. But you know, it's a tough battle because all of this generation now, yo, they want to go around and they just steadily trying to chase old Pikachu here. You know? But, yo, if you're out there watching, I done caught the chew. I done got him. We done got the chew. I got him. I mounted him. And they... Yo, Squash got distracted for a second, yo.
It's fine. Happens to the best of us.
Yo, it's some of them herbs I used to partake with back in the day. Sometimes they come back and haunt me. You know, when I was hanging out with old Ted Nugent, we'd go deer hunting, and but he didn't like Squash all that much. He said my clock made too much noise, scared the deer away. But yo, everything the secretary said today, yo, was the truth. Yo, he kicked it like it hasn't been kicked before. And they are absolutely right, yo. Absolutely right. This nation of ours is in danger, yo. We in danger. The next time you may see fried squash, yo, it may be illegal for me to have the name fried squash because somebody patented the squash. How can you patent something the good Lord has made? Well, because you injected it with a nasty chemical that gave you the right. Yo, I've never seen my boy as pumped up as he is, yo. I'm telling you what, I saw him pumped up like that one time in Cambodia, yo. Whoo! Whoo! When we left the jungle, wasn't nothing left. Nothing.
Nothing.
Not even a banana spider, yo. He let it out. You know, like them penguins said on that movie Happy Feet, yo. He let it out. And I believe that my boy is going to use all of his peeps under his command to do what he has to do. That's just what I think. That's just what old Squash thinks. Yo, but I'm nothing more, yo, than a rapping dirt farmer from Georgia. But I do it the way the good Lord wanted Squash to do. So,
Well, thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. And thank you for coming on the show with me.
yo,
Tonight-
anytime.
Now, since we are completely out of time, why don't y'all head over to Living on a Dime's live stream tonight at 8 o'clock.
Yo, peace.